You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to this Friday night titbits show, a little smorgasbord of various bits and pieces for you dear listeners. Primarily a voicemail that I missed on my show the other day, so I wanted to include that. But I'm speaking to you on the Friday night before tomorrow's crucial home fixture versus Cardiff City. Of course, as I'm speaking to you, Plymouth have actually taken the lead versus Leicester City. Whether it finishes that way, you'll know better than me by the time you get to listen to this show. But as matters stand, Plymouth have actually just gone 2 places above us on 48 points, then QPR, then Millwall on 18th position as I'm speaking to you. Below us on 46 each, Blackburn and Stoke, then a 3-point gap down to Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday, and a 4-point gap to Birmingham City, who are the probably at the moment the prime contenders. I did see some betting odds online today, looking through X, Twitter, showing us at 30-something to 1 against going down now. No Millwall supporter worth his salt will feel truly comfortable unless or until it's actually mathematically certain. Tomorrow's game, I think, probably all but should do it. Bar miracles. Miracles do happen from time to time, of course, so we've got to be aware of other results. But I think a win tomorrow, or at the very least an avoidance of defeat at home to Cardiff, should do the job. We are, of course, collectively at the Den still a buzz from that magnificent midweek performance at home to table-topping Leicester City, who seem to be on the wobble at the moment, losing at Plymouth, but we've certainly caught them at the right time in the wake of 2 fairly poor performances at Rotherham and then, of course, Huddersfield, but that was all put to rights on Tuesday night at home to Leicester, 1-0 win, of course. But more than that, a magnificent performance, listeners. You know, how the same squad, the same set of players can produce fairly shambolic performances at, lesser lights and then go and match one of the best teams in the division. I'm just looking at their record at the moment, albeit losing tonight at the moment. But still, 28 wins for Leicester, 79 goals scored and just 38 conceded to go and produce a huge showing like we did. Defies logic, but I want to pay tribute to Neil Harris and the squad for making one of the best nights at the Den in a long while, possibly, arguably, since Neil Harris's first reign. Make of that what you will. So first up on this show anyway, listeners, we've got a few bits and pieces for you here. It won't be a huge edition, just a Friday night tasty for you. But this is a phone message that Tony Kelly left me the other day in the wake of that 1-0 win versus Leicester. I missed it from the other show. I want to say sorry to Tony. Do keep them coming, mate. I really appreciate it. But we're going to run with Tony's voicemail now. This was sent in the immediate aftermath of Mill beating Leicester 1-0 on Tuesday night.
Morning, Nick. Just Tony Kelly. After the night before. Well, what can I say? That was unreal last night. So as soon as SA come on the pitch last night, I felt like Leicester lost their kind of shape at the back four. He seemed to have got time on the ball and he seemed to open them up a little bit. And I don't know, we all know SA as a 90-minute player is not the same as, as an impact player. And I think it kind of worked in our favour last night. That game opened up a little bit. And, a couple of minutes later, Longman got a bit of space down the left. And look what he done last night. For me, I know he gets a lot of stick, but we all know he can do that. And we haven't got many players that can pick up a ball 20, 30 yards out and thump it. And he can do it. And I know he's not consistent, but fuck me, last night, that was well worth the wait. Do you know what I mean? And what a time to get it. I don't want to go on too long. I thought the team was great last night. I thought the whole team was great. I felt like, we've been a little bit inconsistent this year. The whole league's been inconsistent this year. Everyone's beating everyone. We've seen that last night. But we got a bit of Millwall. It was like the old Millwall had turned up last night. Millwall of old, you know. Cool, you know. I might be an older Millwall supporter, and you know I'm not really up on the social media side of things and the Twitter side of things. But my boy tells me a lot of things, you know, what people are saying, and look, I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, we're in a league that everyone seems to beat everyone. You know, no one's consistently great unless you're like top 3 or 4. Everyone else is kind of nicking points, and it's been that kind of season for us this year. But I'm going to say it. I don't get the negativity around Harris, right? Because, right, we wouldn't have got that performance off of Joe Edwards. We just wouldn't have. He wouldn't have got that last night out of them 11 players, 12, 13, 14 players that come on. He just wouldn't have got it. They were immense last night. And that's what Harris gives us. For me, I don't want to see no one else in that nugget. Maybe it's my age. Maybe it's, you know, like the amount of years I've been following Millwall. I've always had him there as, you know, as the chopper, as the, you know, the bomber, the general. I just don't feel like there's any kind of, you know, there's no better manager in this country that can manage us, because, you know, he is Millwall. He goes home and he gets the ump if we've lost. You can't say that about Joe Edwards. I'm sorry. He might be technically fucking better. You know, he might have, you know, but we all come from, you know, a place where you just want to see him get up. And sorry, but he that last night was what we were about. And I know it's not every week, and I know it's not tactically great. But for me, you know, I can live with that. Do you know what I mean? I was sad to see him go the first time, but again, that's just me fucking being a fanboy. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to get to work now. I'm absolutely buzzing. Roll on Saturday. And come on, you Lions. Thanks very much, Nick. Come on, Millwall. We can do this.
Fantastic message, Tone. I really appreciate it, mate. I'm sorry I missed it off the previous show, but I wanted to do something to get it included because I like the sentiments there, Tone. You're right. I mean, it's a good question. Who can manage us? We're not going to get the top draw of managers, listeners. We might conceivably, if Neil Harris weren't to be given the job next season, we might get what I call the second rank of championship managers, and by that I'm talking about the Mowbrays or the others that have been round the track a few times in the championship. I doubt that would excite every single fan. One of the problems, I think, is you can't please all the people all the time. You hopefully please some of the people all the time. And clearly, Tony, for example, is very pleased with what we got the other night. I think there's two things with Neil Harris, Tony, and this is what I would say. Personally, I can appreciate everything you've said. I understand it. I mean, Millwall is a very difficult club to be an outsider to. People come in and there's an instinctive suspicion of anyone that comes in from the outside. There's enough of a suspicion for those on the inside, let alone anyone coming in from the outside, dear listeners. We seem to hate each other as much as we hate everyone else outside. So, you know, it's not an easy place. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I don't think it is an easy club to come into. You've got to understand it. I was really interested in Neil's post-match interview. It's on the BBC London site. I tried to lift it, but I think they must put some kind of dampener on it, so the volume is really, really low, so I couldn't use it. But it was a really interesting interview with one of their post-match journos, pitch side, after Tuesday night. And he was making the point in very general terms that he understands the feel of the Den, and I think he's onto something there. I know that, for example, that Tony Monday, that often posts recently, is a huge critic of the Neil Harris style, and I understand where he's coming from too, because the Neil Harris style does have its limitations, certainly with the current squad. But what I do think Neil brings, which maybe Joe didn't, and I don't really would like to disparage Joe, because I actually think he would have been will be a very promising manager at some point in the future. But there's a thing called understanding Millwall, which is a different thing to, going to somewhere like Charlton, just as one place that, occurs to me. It's just a very different club. We all know that. We take pride in it. We nurture it. We cuddle it close because it's our identity. Very difficult crowd to please. I think if people don't see good flowing attacking football, then they will let you know very, very quickly that they're unhappy. It's in the nature of our DNA. I'm trying to avoid cliches, and all I'm doing is coming out with these kind of cliches, listeners. I know what you mean, Tone, about negativity. It can become a very comforting thing, negativity. You find it in life generally. We all know people that seem to prefer to look on the downside rather than the upside of things. Equally, you don't want to be too happy clappy, only ever look for the bright sunshine of the glorious tomorrow. So it's going to be a big question. I mean, I'm going to guess that if we can avoid defeat tomorrow, then that may be enough. We'll only have 3 games to go. Other results might play into our hands, but we'll see. But certainly a win tomorrow would largely do it, I think. I don't think there's, from what I've seen of some of the other sides, the miracles don't seem to be on Birmingham's agenda at the moment. We've got Gary Rowett, who many people, didn't enjoy the football. I mean, I really enjoyed Tuesday night, and, of course it helps to win. But the spirited, no-nonsense, full-on Millwall style, and the fact that we scored a bit of fortune, because you don't always get world-class goals like Ryan Longman scored on Tuesday night. And if he was a world-class player, then, as we've said many times, he wouldn't be at the Den. But it all came together. And for me, I think I've said it a few times, and I think others might have said it. I know we have to aspire to get into the Premier League. If I'm going to be really honest with you, listeners, it wouldn't really bother me if we never ever did. As long as we survive, as long as the club continues, as long as it remains Millwall as I've known and loved it ever since I first set foot across the threshold of Coldblow Lane in 1972, as long as we produce players that give you big moments from time to time, hopefully fairly regularly, but if we never ever got into the Premier League, it wouldn't fuss me. It's not burning inside me. It'd be nice. And, to get back to the first division as it is now of the Premier League in modern terms would be, is what you have to aim for, because what else are you going to do? But, my main role in, as I see it, in doing these kinds of podcasts and the other bits and pieces I've done over time is to preserve Millwall, because no one else is going to do it for us. And every other club always looks rather bland and insipid compared with our dear beloved Millwall. So big nights like we had on Tuesday night will come along hopefully more often with a manager in charge that understands us. And that, as you said there, Tom, that's Neil Harris through and through. It's an inconsistent league, as we're seeing at the moment. As I'm speaking, I'm still going to check the score line. I think Plymouth were beating Leicester last time I looked, and people would say that with our result on Tuesday. How can Leicester, with all their millions of pounds of players, how can we turn up and beat them with a scratch squad of players that have largely fallen by the wayside in one way? So that's the kind of player we're going to get. But that's the Championship, and it's an enjoyable league, and we have our place within it. That's all you can really aim for. So 1-0 coming towards half time for Plymouth as I'm speaking to you. So no, I'm with you, Tone. Negativity. I think we've got to get rid of this negativity. We only got one Millwall. We've got 500 tickets left for sale for tomorrow. It may well be another sellout, which is an incredible thing. But if we're all behind the Lions tomorrow, then there's every chance that we can win survival for another season. We'll die another day, as the film says. Now, I've got a few odds and ends too that I've picked out. People have contacted me over on the various, email and also YouTube. We get a lot of comments on YouTube. I just wanted to mention a few of them because I really appreciate any feedback that you get when we do these shows. So I wanted to run through a few odds and ends. Before I do that, though, I'm just looking at some of the main Mill news of today. Is that the contracts extensions have been triggered for George Saville and for Ryan Leonard. Ryan Leonard, by popular demand the other night, was probably the fans' man of the match, I think. I don't think many people would quibble with Ryan Longman with that goal, but certainly Ryan Leonard's performances across the season have been player of the season level on what has been a difficult campaign generally. But both players, Saville and Leonard, have triggered contract extensions, so both going to be at the Den next season. That, for me, is good news. I know some people talk about George Saville maybe, coming towards the sunset of his career, maybe so, but I still think that there's something in him. I think there's a leadership in him that hasn't been around much on the pitch this season, generally, but he will be one of the players that can produce that, and I think with the magic combination of Neil Harris and George Saville as his man on the pitch, maybe we'll see some of that we've not seen so much this season. I include Ryan Leonard. I really like Ryan Leonard. A good power. He's a midfielder really, but he's been playing out of position. So if he does get your vote for player of the season, listeners, keep in mind he's been playing out of position all campaign. So that will be some achievement if that comes off. But that's the big Millwall news. That's in the South London Press, the London News Online. I think they've also broken it on their podcast, which is very good, incidentally. I don't promote many other podcasts on these shows, do I? But I will mention the South London Press. It covers other clubs, so you're going to hear a bit of Charlton, a bit of Palace, a bit of Wimbledon, but also a good slice of Millwall as well. Richard Corley is one of the main voices on there, the lead journo, and I really enjoy it. I'm a regular listener of it, and to whatever level, you don't have to listen to the Charlton bit if you don't want to. I always do. It's nice to find out how they're suffering down at Charlton Station. But it's a good show. Well worth adding as your second choice behind Achtung Millwall, the South London Press podcast. So yeah, do check that out. So that's the main Millwall news for today. The other thing, obviously, that we've mentioned already is that tomorrow's game just has 500 tickets left. This was earlier on this evening, and they may be going fast tomorrow. Another full house looms. Incredible. We've averaged 16,500 this season, listeners, at home. And to beat that, you've got to go back to 1952-53, an average attendance of more than what we've done this season, 16,500. So you're going back to just the post-war period, the big boom after the Second World War. What's the cause of that? I mean, I think the club have done really well. I always pride myself on this show of being an open... I'll criticise the club where it's due, but I'll be the first to praise them where they've done well. And they've done well with filling the Den. It's always been that kind of catchphrase that we've seen knocking around on social media. But they've done it well this season, whether it's by a group. Someone made the point to me on X earlier on Twitter that the extra fans are not all foreigners, and that's true. I mean, I was in 14,000 odd on Tuesday. These are tickets sold, not necessarily bums on seats, but that's how many tickets have been sold. But there were what I would call regular Millwall fans around me, one or two that were coming in from abroad weekends. We might have a good few weekenders tomorrow because it's a Saturday game. But if it's putting bums on seats, they certainly sell. The club shop has always got a queue outside it when I walk past on a match day. So however it's being done, whether it's better transport links, whether the Surrey Quays station now being on the overground route has enabled people to get there, as one suggestion was made online, I don't really know. I mean, certainly driving over to Bermondsey is often a mare. I increasingly now come by train over from the dark side of the river on the other side. And for me, coming down to Canada Water or to Surrey Quays if I can get there, it's pretty easy, to be honest. It may well be easier now coming up from the south, the kind of overground line going down towards Croydon. I think it goes out to Clapham and places like that, Crystal Palace and so on. Maybe we're drawing more in. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I can't actually give a reason as to why we've achieved near sellouts so many times this season. It used to be a rarity. To get more than 14,000 was a big deal in a season. Now we're achieving that for, on a regular basis for average games. So anyway, I just want to say well done to the club's marketing, ticket marketing, however they're doing it. They're putting bums on seats, and those bums on seats will buy the catering and buy in the shop, and that's going to help keep us alive. So anyway, as I said earlier on, we get quite a few bits of feedback, some by email. I will come on to one from Mike, who's a regular email feeder back. Big shout out, Mike Bissica. Thank you for that, mate. But I've also got a few comments from some of our regulars on YouTube. It always interests me. I mean, I don't do a video show, as you know, listeners. This is a sound-only production. I've not really got the vavavoom to start doing video productions. If you'd like one, tell me. Actually, let me know. Would you like something like a video? I don't know. I might do it, might not. Probably won't. But anyway, let me know. But we do get quite a few listening to the show via YouTube, and I understand it might be that YouTube is less prone to work firewall. So if you're listening to this show at work via, because the firewall won't let any other streaming come in. Good evening to you all, and I appreciate your custom. But we do get quite a few comments on there. So this is one from a regular listener, Kevin Quirk, talking about the impact of the unexpected nature of Tuesday night's win. In fact, it's a reply to one here from Michael Dunn. Then it'll be Kevin Quirk, because Michael Dunn said he's 60 years old. And he's, it can't analyse the irrationality of how we can summon up such a great performance over a leading side, and go from Rotherham to Leicester within a very short space of time. How do we? What does that? Where did it come from? He says, I'm 60 years old. Over the years, Mill have caused me to scream, shout, cry, not to speak to the old woman for most weekends. He's jumped for joy and also got mad drunk, sometimes all in one game. I know the feeling, Michael. So the Leicester win, he says, Michael, is just about typical for us, following on from the previous Rotherham and Huddersfield defeats that had us all in bits, and that's why we love this club, and why we're all certified lunatics. Come on, you Lions. I think you're onto something, Michael. I mean, I think sometimes we are all a bit cracked, and I include myself and present company. Probably you out there, dear listener, wherever you're listening to this show, whatever part of the world you're in, you're pretty cracked for following Millwall in the first place. And I think it's probably that lurch from lows to highs within what is that, about 7 days, 10 days or something, I don't know. Kevin Quirk replied to there, Michael. He said he's been a Millwall fan for 52 years, but he's not shocked we won, because that's part of the course, says Kevin. Posting before Tuesday night's game, Jazz Lyon, big shout out Jazz, you're another regular commentator on YouTube. He says tonight Leicester will be hard, but if we can beat Cardiff and Plymouth, if we will get behind them, that will be enough. That's going back to the negativity. There was no negativity on Tuesday night, listeners, and I think it was Tony that made that point. If we do pull together, easy to say, but I think if there's a sense that the team are giving everything, as they did Tuesday, if they give everything tomorrow, then the crowd will get behind them. I genuinely believe that the Den does have this tough reputation for Millwall sides to win there. But I genuinely believe if you give a Millwall crowd 100% and don't pull out of your tackles and don't do your absolute best, they might slag you off if you misplace a pass, but they will keep behind you in the tight situations. The Who Dares wins as results elsewhere will help us, says Jazz. Who Dares wins, as Rodney said that on Only Fools and Horses, didn't he? Who Dares wins. Make you right there, Jazz. James Dudley wants to send a big up to Bobby T. Big shout out to Bobby. If you're listening, Bob, your stuff is becoming cult listening, mate. You can probably break off and do your own podcast, because I think you might well get a good listenership, mate. But it's really nice to get a wide range of opinions. I'm really enjoying these voicemail shows, listeners, that when people send their stuff in, I really like doing that. So if nothing else, you're making me happy. And as ever, our profits we donate to the Food Hub. So your opinions are also doing some good for people that need a bit of help when they're in a tight spot. So do send me your voice notes after every game or in midweek, whenever you like. Your thoughts, musings, and rants, really. Anything within the law I'll carry. Millwall related, naturally. But no, you can message me on Twitter, on X, at Achtung Millwall. You can send me a voice message on Twitter. Just press on the direct message. Just press the little voice command, and it'll come through to me. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp me, email me. We can exchange phone numbers. Leave a message on the answer phone. Send me a voice note on the WhatsApp. however you want, really. Just send me your thoughts after a game. I really appreciate it, and it makes for great listening, and I really enjoy doing those shows, as I've said. So yeah, anyway, back to some of the reactions. I wanted to just include David Rouse, who says Millwall, talking after the Leicester game, a club like no other. This is one of the club's cliches on their slogans, isn't it? And this is why they hold a special place in our hearts, says David. I think you're right, David. Anthony Bartlett makes an interesting point. I think he's on the negative side, Anthony, here. He doesn't understand people who support Obi. Yes, he has a high work rate. If we were Man City, he's put Moan City, I think you mean Man City, then he would get 5-6 chances per game, but we ain't. No, we're not, no. Although I did notice there was a story on News at Den on following on from Tuesday. The manager of Leicester City is from the Barcelona school, the Pep Guardiola school of coaching, which links back to Johan Cruyff, of course. But we're not Man City, and we did a good job in closing that down. Anyway, back to Obafemi. He will get 1 or 2, but he must put 1 away. He did have a good chance on Tuesday, which he didn't take. He's proved he can't do it, says Anthony. We need a striker who can actually score from the limited chances he will get. And that ain't Obi, says Anthony. Yeah, if we can find him for cheap, Anthony, this striker that's going to score the majority of his chances from the few that we supply, we've got to find him somewhere out there that's unknown at the moment, that is not widely scouted, because those players are gold dust, and unfortunately other teams will be bringing their bigger budgets to bear and snapping it up. So that's not an easy thing. I mean, I'm being a bit sarky, but that's not going to be an easy thing. We, in all realism, Obafemi is playing at Millwall for the reasons that you've listed. He's probably not the most natural finisher in the world, but he really, really worked hard. He's very strong on the ball. I really enjoyed his performance on Tuesday night. Is he a Gerd Muller to go back to my era? No, of course he's not. If he was, he would probably have been sold by Burnley to Manchester City, who we're talking about. But we have to make the most of the players that we can get. I think he's clearly a good striker at Championship level. And if he were to stay on next season, I don't know if that's a prospect. I've got no inside track on that. I'll be very, very happy. And last one of these, David Rouse again, who's just said we're a club like no other, has also posted another message saying he's renewed his season ticket, but please, let's not have Harris. This is in the aftermath of the Huddersfield loss. Let's not have Harris next season. We must have a real clear out and get someone like Muscat in with new ideas of playing. I don't know how available Muscat is, David. I think if Neil Harris survives with Millwall, I think he will have earned a run at the managership next season. I don't think the club will let him go. I don't think he'll want to go. He was managing previously at Gillingham and then Cambridge when we retrieved him, League One sides. I think the chance to manage in the Championship will be too tempting for him to walk away from. I don't think the club will be sacking him, nor should they, really, having achieved what he's been asked to do. I think it will be interesting to see what kind of summertime we can have on the transfer front. That's going to be where it will turn. I mean, at the moment, Neil Harris is making the best of a squad that is not entirely of his creation. I know some are the remnants of his first tenure. And it's clear that he's got a certain style of playing that may or may not adapt to the Championship. I don't know, but you need the players to play Neil Harris football, and you don't really have that at the moment. So I would like to see someone up front with a bit of presence. Whether he's going to be the goal scoring maestro that others have referred to, I don't know. But like I've said, they're going to be rare to find. But we do need some physical presence up front, whether that's a younger player, whether that's going to be an old salt that's back in his days out, I don't know. But a goal scoring is going to be key, or at least having some presence up front. That's going to be where it stands or falls. There we are, dear listeners. I just wanted to mention there's an email. This is from Mike Bissiker. Before I close out this show. This is entitled Bomber as Manager. There's a lot of talk, says Mike Bissica, about Neil Harris continuing as manager next season or not. I have a solution, which is to appoint him for home games only. I think Mike's advocating a split. Not seriously, listeners, before you all get on your high horse. Mike's advocating home games only for Neil Harris and another for the away games. Maybe Gary Rowett for the away games, I don't know. He really gets us all going at home, but his tactics and substitutes away are dreadful, says Mike. So it's a two-person solution. Can you imagine the feuding that would go on if you had two managers at the same club? Mike's major lesson of the last few days is never ever jump to long-term conclusions with Millwall, because you will never know what the result's that's going to be coming next. That's part of the attraction of supporting the club. He says he doesn't ring in. He likes to email me. Don't ring in because he hasn't got anything different to contribute. And he can't compete with Bill Slack. Bill Slack, great contributor, who says everything I want to say. And, of course, the inimitable Bobby T. Bobby T is 2 mentions for Bobby T. I've enjoyed the last few shows, says Mike, because it's cathartic listening to other very frustrated Lions fans, and it helps me to come to terms with particularly poor performances. I know that I'm not on my own. Big thank you, Mike. I appreciate that email. I hope that we do have that function in everyone's life. I think it's, I never really had an aim with these podcasts at the first. It was really just to reflect my take on what was going on. But if other people can find some, some comfort in dark times, that's great. Just going to close out with, I mentioned for Steve Bolo, who's a regular contributor on email. I'll give you a big shout out, mate. Steve listens to the show, and on his way to hospital, his mum and dad are both not very well at the moment, and the walk to the hospital is enlivened by listening to Achtung Millwall. So I'm going to give you a shout and wish your parents all the best, Steve, and give you a big shout out for always enjoy reading your emails, mate. Big thank you. There we are, dear listeners. As I said at the start of the show, this is only a shortie. It's actually 32 minutes long. It's not that short, is it? Looking forward to tomorrow. We're going to do a show in the aftermath of tomorrow's home fixture versus Cardiff. Do send me your voice notes, as I've said already. You can email me. We'll do a number swap. You can send me your WhatsApp voice notes. Or if you don't want to do any of that, you can just go on to X, find my Achtung Millwall account, and send me a direct message. Just press the voice command and speak. And I really appreciate everyone's contributions and content. So until tomorrow night's events, I want to say a big thank you to you listeners for tuning into this Bits and Pieces show. And until the next edition, which will be over the weekend, it's from me, Nick Hart. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.